folks, I'm Craig Lipinski.
I'm Seth Castello.
And you're listening to episode 8 of Ludowave Radio, the smooth sounds of video game talk. And we are down Chris Dunn once again.
Yeah, he, I guess he, loves his wife or something, and he chose her over us.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say we're so much down Chris Dunn as Chris Dunn has let us down.
Yeah, repeatedly. This is, his second offense, right?
It's habitual, right? You would call this habitual.
I would. It's a habit. We're gonna have to put him as guest starring or featured or something from now on.
He gets shunted to the end of the Happy Days credits, and also featuring Chris Dunn.
No. Yeah, but I don't know. I honestly, I think he's just using excuses because he doesn't like us anymore.
I can't say I blame him.
What?
Speaking mostly for myself, I'm not going to speak for you.
I was about to say, because I'm great, so it's not... Can't be me.
Good to know your self-esteem is back.
Yes, absolutely.
Personally, I just figure, this isn't TV unless I'm not driving the whip anymore, but at the same time, I'd rather keep the episodes coming out at a reasonably consistent pace. So just me and you, bud.
Just you and I.
So it has been 2 weeks. We're actually going to get this right. It's been 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. I took my cat to the vet, as I talked about last episode.
Right.
That was definitely not $700.
What was it? A lot more than $700?
It was a lot more.
Oh no! Is Aki okay?
Oh, Aki's fine. He just had his mouth was just straight fucked. It was, I think in the end it's going to come just shy of $1,500.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, right? No kidding. I mean, part of that is he needed updates to his shots. I mean, that's not an outrageous amount of money. It's about $100. Mm-hmm. But, that definitely adds to it. So, yeah, that sucked. He was hopped up on pain. I don't know how they do it without, killing the cat, but they gave him enough painkillers to last 3 days. With one injection. So
What?
He came home and he was stoned out of his fucking mind for 3 days. His pupils were just dilated. He was just pacing frantically in the kitchen. He just didn't know what to do with himself.
Wow.
Yeah. And he couldn't talk because his mouth was still messed up, so he couldn't talk.
Okay, wait. Let me explain something to you real fast, Craig. Cats cannot talk even when they're not hopped up on goofballs.
Well, I didn't say that he spoke English to me. This is not a cartoon.
All right. Does he speak Portuguese to you?
He doesn't speak any human language. He meows. He's a very chatty cat. So him not, speaking at all was really unnerving. Just giant saucer pupils, pacing in the kitchen and just frantically looking around and not saying anything. I'm like, it was creepy. It was creepy. But he's a lot better now. It was just very expensive to get him there, unfortunately.
Make him fucking brush his teeth from now on.
He's got far fewer teeth to bunch. That's to brush. That's for sure. He's got him just yanked the whole mess of them out. They're kind of rotten and nasty too. Though that's why they had to come out. They were just
that's why he should have been. See, this is why everybody listening, brush your teeth, kids.
Yeah, human beings should definitely brush their teeth. Cats. Now, Seth, this is where your education comes in. Cats don't brush their teeth. They don't have opposable thumbs. They can't.
What?
They don't speak English or Portuguese, and they don't brush their teeth.
I thought they just taped a toothbrush to a cabinet, a low wall, and just ran their mouth back and forth over it. Is that not a thing?
Nope, not in cat ownership that I know of. I could be doing it wrong, and that's why it cost me $1,500. So, lesson learned. Lesson learned.
When I was in junior high, I had a dog, and I used to brush her teeth.
You can brush your pet's teeth, cats included, but good luck, I guess, is the only thing I can say about that. Yeah. When they, I guess, part of the biggest, part of what makes that so expensive for cat dental surgery is that they have to just knock the cat the fuck out for that whole thing. You can't have a cat awake for that. They're not going to have you in the mouth. They don't want you doing that. So a big part of the cost is the anesthesia, and he's a big boy, so that's a lot of anesthesia, and he's got he's down for the count for quite some time, so that's what contributed to the cost. But like I said, he's doing better now. Let's see. I did a lot in the past 2 weeks. I played Descent. Have you ever heard of Descent? It's a board game.
No.
It's I want to say it's like, well, maybe because I have no framework for these sorts of games, so I'm going to say it's like Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm sure there's people like, no, they're nothing alike. But you have a persistent character that grows over time. You play with multiple people. You have a party. There's a dungeon master, and there's different campaigns. And but it's super simple. Like I imagine it's far simpler than actual Dungeons and Dragons, but it's a lot of fun. And my friend who's doing the DM part for us is super smart, and so he's a super huge asshole. Like, it's just all his moves are very smart, and it makes it a very difficult game, but. It's a lot of fun. Actually, he was the composer for the TV Unless podcast theme song.
Oh, sweet.
But he's very smart, so all his moves as DM just fuck us up real good.
How many people are you playing with?
There's 5 altogether, including him. Four of us, and then one of him.
That's but 4 more people than I know, so I can't play anything like that.
Well, one of them's Megan, and one of them's his wife, and then the other one is just some dude.
Just some random guy. Just wandered in. Nobody even knows where he came from or his name.
Yeah. We went to like, a group building website and just like, we need you, dude, and looking for group LFG, and he showed up.
Huh. Well, I hope he doesn't kill all of you.
That's not what we did, just to be clear. So
Okay.
That probably won't happen. I started painting with gouache. Are you familiar? You're an artsy fellow. Are you familiar with gouache?
Are we back to Portuguese?
I think it's French. I think it's French.
Okay. I don't know this word.
So, I tend to make the mistake that when I first hear about something, and I've never heard it before in my life, I assume that no one else has ever heard of it, which is like a really arrogant thing to do. So I try not to do that now.
Right.
But gouache it's watercolor. It's highly pigmented watercolor. It comes in tubes. So when you cut it with a bunch of water, it'll paint just like regular watercolor. That sort of dreamy, transparent color. But if you don't cut it with as much water, it goes on opaque and it dries super fast, and you can layer it almost like acrylic. So it's this really cool, really bright, vibrant, flexible paint, and it's super up my alley. I really like it.
I'm looking at like paintings using it and stuff, and they look awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I heard about it, and I'm like, wow, that's fucking cool. So I went to AC Moore, which is, I don't know if you got those out there, but it's a craft store, it's a craft chain.
I have not. Aaron Brothers is the big one around here.
Okay, we got AC Moore and Michaels.
Yeah, Michaels is obviously everywhere, but yeah.
Okay, I went to AC Moore, and they wanted like $10 for one of these little tubes. And if you want to get started, you want like 5 or 6 of them,
right?
And I'm not paying $50 or $60. So I went on Amazon. They had a set of the same brand. I think it's Windsor and Newton, and I guess that's like one of the best bang for your buck when it comes to, I guess, gouache. And it was like $22 for like a set that came with like 6 colors. And I'm like, yeah, I'll fucking do it. I don't know where it came from. The box was all banged up. Back of some guys, it fell off the truck, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, definitely been enjoying that. And finally, I read and finished Blood, Sweat, and Pixels by Jason Schreier, who is a reporter for Kotaku.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with this book?
I'm familiar with Jason Schreier. I'm not familiar with the book. What's it cover?
It covers, so I think there's 10 chapters, and each chapter is about 30 pages long, and it's like a backstory about how a game got developed and released. And, well, except for one game, because the last chapter is Star Wars 1313. So it's about how that game didn't get released. And it's pretty good. I liked it. I think, though, that perhaps someone like me and probably someone like you, not the target audience, actually, surprisingly.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that he might be trying to target perhaps a more casual audience. And I'm not using that in the Wii sense of the word. It just,
No,
you know...
who doesn't play video games and is like sitting around Barnes and Nobles and going like, I want to read this book about video game development.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good point. Like, I wonder who that sort of person is, but at the same time, it's also a good book for someone like that, though. Even though they're not looking for it. Like, I think most people have a vague sense of how, you know, TV shows or movies are produced or how music is recorded. You know, they may not know the finer details, but they probably have a general sense of how these other mediums are put together. Most people have, even people who play video games, you know, every day, have no idea how these things are made. So I think the book could have broad appeal, but you're right. I don't know who that person is just sitting around Barnes & Noble thinking like, yeah, I should read that. But he's got footnotes in this book that explain like what frames per second means or what a platformer is. And, you know, like, that's all good and well. Like, I'm not a gatekeeper. I feel like anyone who can benefit from this book, that's great. But I'm reading, I'm like, am I the target audience for this? Because the other thing is that I don't want to, like, completely undermine the effort he put into reporting on each one of these games, but he's a reporter. Like, he's writing like a reporter. So what you get in those 30 pages for each game is like this, like, decent account of what happened, but I would not say that you get a very good exploration of what happened, if that makes sense. So, like, for instance, he spoke with the guy who developed Stardew Valley. Forget his name. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he dedicated like 2 sentences to the crushing loneliness that he felt, and I'm like, well, I feel like crushing loneliness deserves a bit more than that, maybe.
Yeah, let's explore that area. But
I mean,
no, nothing.
No. So I mean, I'm glad that it's in there, like that. It says that to someone, but that's all it does is say it. It doesn't really expand upon it. And so, like, by the time I finish the book, you know, I don't feel like I wasted my time or my money or anything like that. But I also, I don't think I was completely, like, fulfilled or satisfied either. But that could be just because of, like, my, you know, how much I'm invested into the games industry and, like, how much I already follow it, you know, where a lot of this stuff was not already, it was not news to me when I read this book. Huh. But interesting little read. I mean, it's a very easy read. It's like, I think it was like $10 on Amazon. So not a bad read, but I wouldn't go into it thinking like you're going to uncover all the mysteries of game development. You're not. It's not in there, unfortunately. But yeah, like I said, a lot of stuff happened in the past 2 weeks.
What are some of the games in there aside from Star Wars 1313 and Stardew Valley?
Uncharted 4.
Okay.
Destiny 1. One of those, what is it? Like, is it Divinity, Original Sin or something like that, I think is in there. And Diablo 3.
Okay.
So,
I mean, they're all games that were kind of interesting in the development because, like, Uncharted 4 had, like, a big firing of the main writer from the other 3 games and a change of writers and stuff like that. And Stardew Valley just kind of popped up out of nowhere with an unknown developer. So, it's all interesting.
Shovel Knight, too. Shovel Knight's in there, so that was also interesting.
Okay.
Because you had a group of people that was that way forward and then left and did a Kickstarter. So
it's not like the making of Assassin's Creed 3 or anything like that, where it's just another
500 people were chained to their desk for 3 years. No, right? I mean, that's the world's shortest chapter. Am I right? So no, it's not like that.
Okay.
No, it's a worthwhile read. I just I want to temper expectations. I want to have that I want to make that recommendation, but also say don't expect too much from it, because I expected more and I didn't get it. And that may be on me, but I didn't get it.
All right.
How about you? How have you been?
I've been good. I thought I found a dead body on Wednesday. Let me explain. Yeah. I was at a park. I was at a park by a water channel. There's like a long channel that just goes into the mainland just for like boats and shit that doesn't really lead anywhere, but it goes out to the ocean on the other end.
Already sounds like a horror movie. Keep going.
Okay. So as I'm walking along the water channel, I like to look in the water because there's like all sorts of rays in there. There's like 3 different kinds of stingrays and bat rays and stuff. And there was a big old bat ray, and it was like coming right up to the surface, like near the rocks. So I hopped down there to take some pictures of the awesome bat ray. And then I look over to my left, and in the water, in the shallow part of the water, there's something like very small, human-shaped, wrapped in cloth, and then with like a big, heavy rock placed on top of it.
Oh, yeah, I probably would have thought the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's very easy to understand how I thought this was a dead body. So I was there with my sister, and we were there with the dog. So I screamed. I went, "Yo, I think I just found a dead body." And then she's like, "What?" Because, you know, I lie and make shit up a lot. So she came down and to look in. And she's like, "Oh, yeah, huh." So she found a grounds worker who worked at the park, and he came over with like a big old long pole, you know, like a pole with a little hook on it.
Wait, so the horror movie Water Channel has a groundskeeper?
Of course.
As you do, I understand. Okay.
It's a city park. There's workers around.
All right.
So he found, or he brought his body fishing pole out of storage wherever he keeps it. And he like started like tugging away at it, at the cloth, and just like ripping shreds off of it because it had been there for a while. And then he started like knocking the pole like on top of the rock that was sitting on top of the bundle, on top of the body like bundle. And he's like, "Oh, it's just a rock." And then I was like, "No, that was on top of the whole thing. You got to keep going." So he like kept pulling, and he got the blanket a little bit out of the water, but then he like just gave up. He's all like, "I'm not really getting anywhere. You should just call the police." And then he left. It's like it was a not my job kind of thing. I don't know about these dead bodies. I'm not here for that. So we called the police. We called the non-emergency line, and they said that they would make it a priority call anyway. And eventually, like 4 cop cars pulled up. And then they eventually started trying to pull this thing out of the water, right? Are you still there?
Oh yeah, no.
Okay, no, okay. You went very quiet all of a sudden.
I'm listening intently.
Okay. So the cops are trying to pull this thing out of the water, and then they're tugging, and they're there for like maybe 10 minutes, and I'm watching them, and they never get this bundle all the way out of the water, and they never even get it all the way like unfurled or unwrapped to see what's inside of it, and then they like stop, and then they're like, "Oh, it's just a rock inside." And then I'm like, okay, and then they leave, and then I'm looking at it, and I'm like, they didn't get any of this open. So my sister went, "No, that's it. We're gonna open this up." And so then she goes down there, and she's like trying to pry this blanket. It was a comforter, I guess, out of the water and unravel it. And eventually, both her and I got it pulled up most out of the way and opened up, and it was just full of sand. It was like full of mud and sand from the channel bank. So it was nothing. It was not a dead body. Somebody wrapped up a bunch of mud and put a giant rock on it, and I think they did it like that to make it look like a dead body.
You think they did it on purpose?
I think they did. I have pictures of it, and it's just very human shaped.
What the fuck, man?
Yeah, so
I love how the cops weren't even right. They were just
they're like it's a rock. It wasn't a rock. There was no rock inside of it at all. It was bananas. They're like whatever. That's good enough. It's a rock. And it was mud. It was not even hard in any way, shape, or form.
Oh man.
So that was
I was on the edge of my seat. I want to know what was in there. We tore it open and a bunch of old pogs fell out.
I wish. My favorite part, though, is at one point my sister's like looking in the mud. She's like, "I don't know if that's like something or a seashell," and like she didn't know if it was like a fingernail or a bone fragment or something. I was like, "Your hand's already dirty. Just grab it." And then she did. So I could have talked her into grabbing some human remains.
Was it a fingernail?
It was a seashell. It was all very uneventful.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of action for a whole lot of bullshit.
Yeah, unfortunately, there was no dead body. Maybe next time.
Yeah. Maybe I should reframe how I think about that. Whew, thank goodness it wasn't a dead body.
It would have been more exciting if it was, though.
Anything else? Is that the highlight?
I think that's the highlight of my 2 weeks. So we could go on from there.
All right. I have been playing. Can you guess what I've been playing, Seth?
Okay. First, let me head you off here. My girlfriend said you are not allowed to talk about Destiny.
I don't care. She lives in Canada, and she has no jurisdiction here in America.
That's true. She really has no rights at all.
Lawyered. I have been playing Destiny 2. And I have been playing it a little more socially than I played. Well, I didn't play the first one socially at all. So playing even just once with someone else would be more socially than the first game.
Right.
But I've been making an effort to play it more socially, to take advantage of the social modes, because there are activities that you can do that you have to have what Destiny calls a fire team. You have to have real people that you know. And so I've been doing a little bit of that, like the lowest bar, like Nightfall Strikes, which only require 3 people, you and 2 other people. So I've been doing those, and that's been fun. Destiny 2 has a much better funnel than Destiny 1. Destiny 1, the way your levels are measured is your gear that you have equipped. So it's an average of the attack of your weapons and the defense of your armor. It's an average of those numbers. That's your level. So better gear gives you a higher level. And in Destiny 1, all the good shit was locked behind activities that required a fire team. So there would come a point where you couldn't do it. That's it. You hit the glass ceiling. You couldn't go anywhere. Destiny 2 still does that, but it also gives you a single player, a solo player, I should say, more opportunities to get higher level gear. You'll still get more interesting weapons from the activities that require a fire team, but you're not locked out of like leveling up as a solo player. And I think that's really good. It goes a long way to making it that omnivore game that Bungie once described it as, because it kind of is. Destiny 1 was an omnivore game up until a certain point, and then you had to have friends and a social life, and I don't have those things. So,
dude, you were just playing board games with 4 other people.
None of them have Destiny. I do have friends with Destiny 2. I put a call out on Facebook, and they're really like they're playing it, but they're lagging behind. They're not high enough level to do those end game activities. So it's like, all right, but
how many hours have you put into Destiny 2, Craig?
Well, to be fair, I've put in quite a lot.
All right.
It's very easy to get to a high enough level to do like Nightfall Strikes. Like you can basically putz around for a few hours, and it doesn't take that long. That's long before to do like Nightfall Strikes. That the minimum level recommendation for that is actually long before you hit the funnel I was talking about. Okay. So, I mean, other people have lives. Like, look, I don't want to rag on them, but I have friends who are not there yet. So, it's tough to get those folks together. But I'm glad that Destiny 2 is designed so that you can do some of these weekly activities and still get good stuff for yourself by yourself. If you got kids or whatever. I actually read an article on Kotaku today that some people were complaining about that, actually, because people who have already just put in like 150 hours don't have there's nothing left for them to do. And part of me goes, dude, you just played a single game in the past like 3 weeks, 150 hours. Like, I don't know what you expected from this. That sounds like you got a pretty good deal out of it to me. But yeah. I think there's still some expectation of it being very MMO-esque rather than a shooter that borrows elements from an MMO, which I think is probably more of an accurate assessment. But
right.
It's a great game. It's a lot of fun. If you ever change your mind, decide to get it, we can play together.
You will have an easier time talking Chris into this than me.
Well, Chris is already on the cusp anyway. I just got to kind of push him over the edge.
All right. Well, I'm not. I don't think I'm going to get in there at all.
No, that's fine. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, you have an easier time talking me into like what was that game we played together?
What game did we play together? What are you talking about?
Fuck. Why can't okay, I'm just...
What system was it on?
PS4?
We played a game together on PS4?
Oh my God.
Overwatch. We played Overwatch together.
Overwatch. I don't know why I drew a blank on Overwatch.
Yeah, that is literally the only game we've played together in the past, 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, maybe you should get Overwatch then.
I think we've known each other for, over a decade, and I feel like we've probably played, 4 or 5 games together total.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Do you remember what the first game we played together was, Craig?
I don't, do you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll give you a hint. It was on DS.
Was it Mario Kart?
No.
I don't know.
It was Tony Hawk.
Was it really?
Skateland, yeah.
That's such a great game, too. That was so good.
It's so fun. It's so fun, yeah.
That was the last good Tony Hawk. What the hell?
But, yeah, no. I don't remember what we were talking about now because I'm very good at derailing things.
Well, we were talking about Destiny 2.
Destiny.
And, yeah, we were talking about Destiny. But I don't really have much more to say about it. I'm not going to talk at length about it like I did last episode. Just an update. Update that I like the funnel. The funnel is good. What else have I been playing? Did you play SteamWorld Dig 2 at all?
No, I didn't play the first one. I'm not really interested in those games.
Really? Do you enjoy Metroid?
Of course.
Castlevania?
Yes.
But no interest in what? So, if you enjoy those games, what about SteamWorld Dig? I mean, this might be a hard question to answer, but what about it doesn't appeal to you then?
I just don't really like the whole art style of it, I guess. It just looks very, I don't know, claustrophobic and samey. All the dirt just everywhere just reminds me of Terraria or something where you're just digging through dirt nonstop.
Yeah, I guess it is a bit like that. Yeah, I guess if that that is a turn off, I guess that's a big part of the game, digging through the dirt. So it's a good reason. If you're gonna have a reason, that's probably the best one. I love the first SteamWorld Dig. I loved SteamWorld. Did you play SteamWorld Heist?
No.
Okay.
This is a franchise I've not gone into.
SteamWorld Heist is a side-scrolling strategy game, and that's really good too. And SteamWorld Dig 2 is phenomenal. The Dig games have this just really satisfying loop where you dig down, and you can only dig down so far because you have a light source that recharges when you go back to the surface. So you can only go so far with your light, and you collect gems that you trade in for money, and then you use that money to buy upgrades. Upgrades such as extending your light time. So you dig down, you explore, maybe you hit a cave, you go through the cave, you get, some loot or whatever, and then your light source is running out, so you head back to the surface, you recharge, you get your money, you buy your new stuff, you go back down. It always feels like you're making progress even when you're just fucking off. So it's very satisfying. So that is a great game. Those are 3 games that they've made, Image and Form. And they've killed it. Just 3 games right in a row. They've done a fantastic job.
I'll take your word for it.
All right, that's fine. They are all 3 of those games are highly recommended. I recommend you check them out. But if you're not gonna, that's fine too.
I might.
All right. And I played Metroid, Samus Returns. I only played a couple hours. I like it. I like how Samus feels. Very fast, very fluid. I think Mercury Steam got that right. I absolutely do not like the counter system.
No.
It is, and not by virtue that it's a counter system. Although I'm not so sure how that fits into, Metroid in a general sense. Metroid's, very much like I think about keeping your distance from your enemy. Generally speaking, not that it couldn't work, but it's just so overused in this game.
I agree with you, especially in the beginning of the game. As you get further and you upgrade your gun and stuff, you will just like blast through the weaker enemies like no problem. You won't have to do all that counter bullshit. And
that makes sense. It's just it feels very distracting to enter a room when I'm like, oh, what's it? Because and the backgrounds are fantastic. It's a great atmosphere, I feel like. But you really can't stop and sightsee in the beginning, where I think like sightseeing would have it would be most impactful, because as soon as you enter a room, like 3 of those blue bugs just dive bomb you. And you're like, oh, sorry, pardon me, I was looking around. That's my mistake.
Yeah, no, I feel like the whole counter thing is definitely unbalanced, especially in the beginning of the game. But it eventually becomes unintrusive. But yeah, it's way over, because your gun feels useless without it in the beginning, which is stupid.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with you there.
I guess I got to give it more time. Like I said, I've only played a couple of hours and only, killed 3 Metroids or something. But I like the backgrounds. I like how Samus feels. That's a weird thing to say. I like the backgrounds, but I feel like they did a really good job taking this Game Boy game that really had no real sense of location. Right? It's just these caverns, and updated that to give some life to the game.
I like the art direction for the most part, but I feel like this is like a graphically ugly game. Am I alone in thinking this? Like, as far as, because I feel like even their Lords of Shadow game on 3DS looked better. They don't use like any sort of shaders and the textures just seem real. And I'm not even one to usually complain about like 3DS games, but I just feel like I've seen way better on the system, even from Mercury Steam.
I would say that I think I can meet you halfway on that, because I think that was my initial reaction. But I think that for me, I think it's more fair to say that it's simple looking, but not bad, just simple. And I think that it I don't know, maybe it's simple for a reason. Like maybe in order to keep it fast and smooth, they couldn't go overboard with the graphical effects.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a huge hindrance or anything. I just feel like it's not like one of the best looking 3DS games I've seen.
It's plain, right? I think that's probably a better word than simple.
It's plain. It's very plain.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to put it.
Yeah, there's like no, like I said, there's no like nothing has like specular map, like nothing's shiny and nothing's like bumpy. There's not, and the 3DS could do these things. Obviously, it could do like normal mapping and specular mapping. Is it called specular mapping? Makes things look shiny. Like a 3DS could do these things, and I feel like they just don't use any of those graphical techniques. In
Animal Crossing of all games does that. So
yes, absolutely.
So yeah, I think I agree with you. It is a plain looking game, but I personally would not call it a bad looking game.
It's smooth as
to
fuck.
me, like it's the backgrounds. Yes, it is smooth, and like I said, that might be why it has to be plain looking to maintain that consistency. But yeah, I like the backgrounds. To me, like there's just a really good. I don't know I don't know what the word I'm looking for here is, but they're very evocative.
Okay, I got you.
All right, yeah. My words are failing me.
I would just say they're pretty.
That works. That's fine. Now there is a word that I'm looking, or a phrase that I'm looking for here to describe those, and I wish I had it. But
are they atmospheric?
That is not a very valuable word. I think that's like a 2-cent word because of how overused the word. But yes, I mean that is they're atmospheric. It lends itself to a good atmosphere. Yes.
I beat the game. It gets better. It gets better and better as you play. Obviously, the Metroid forms start becoming more crazy. You got like the Gammas and then the Zetas and then an Omega and then the Queen. That's the way Metroid 2 goes. And once you get to I think it's the Zetas, then the boss fight, the Metroid fights become like a lot more interesting because they're not just like that stupid floating alpha thing that you just parry once and then shoot a few missiles into its stomach and it dies. Then they're like straight up xenomorphs in this game, the Zeta Metroids. And they're climbing around on the ceilings. They're spitting fire at you, and the counters actually I think come into play really fun in the boss encounters, in the Metroid encounters, because they don't pop up like super often. It's not like a move you're waiting for it to happen like you are with the normal enemies, where it just disrupts the whole flow of the of running around and traversing. They happen very rarely, and you got to look for the tell for it to come. And when it comes, there's a very cool animation and camera work, and Samus tackling down the Metroids and climbing over them and shooting missiles down their mouth and everything. It's very cool, and I think that's where the counters really come into play.
So is it like Other M in that regard?
Yeah, kind of.
See, I can kind of dig that, that the cinematic Samus wrestling enemies, part of me finds that very appealing.
Yeah.
Seeing more of Samus as a fighter, a brawler, a real bounty hunter. But just kind of swiping at dudes as they fly at you for the first 2 hours of the game. That's been it's not been great, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. But yeah, like I said, your missile, your arm cannon gets more powerful, and especially when you backtrack to find other things, the enemies, you just shoot through them. They just die. They disintegrate in 1 or 2 shots.
Good to know.
Yep.
What have you been playing in addition to Metroid?
I played through Rhythm Thief on the 3DS because I had never finished that when I started. That was part of my clearing out my backlog. For those unfamiliar with it, it's a straight-up Professor Layton clone, but instead of this reminds me of a mystery, it's this is a rhythm game now. And then
it reminds me of a dance contest.
Exactly. And then you do just different rhythm games, and they they could be button-based or they could be touch-based, and the touch-based ones suck ass, so let's never play those. But it's very... I feel like the game thinks it's better than it actually is. It's fine, it's decent, but the story just feels so... Because it's very story-based, like the Layton games. You're basically just doing these rhythm game mini-games around the story. It's so stupid. The story's so stupid. It's about Napoleon Bonaparte being resurrected to find treasures. He wants treasures so that he could then unlock some secret of Babylon, and the girl you happen to meet who's playing a violin happens to be this key to everything. It's very trite and just dumb. It's very, very dumb. But some of the rhythm games are fun. Not all of them. The main problem with the rhythm games is that they're very trial and error. It's not really well explained what you have to do before you start them, and there's no tutorial to show you what to do, so you're basically gonna fail or do very poorly the first time you play any single rhythm game, and then you're gonna have to replay it a couple times before you actually even know what you're supposed to do to get good at it. But other than that, the rhythm games are fairly decent. They're fun.
The lack of a tutorial is actually the biggest problem I have with the game, because I think the game's cool as hell. It's
stylish.
It's stylish. The story is super dumb. It reminds me of Dreamcast era Sega, where maybe we're going a little bit style over substance. We got some funky tunes. We're going to take a little bit of a chance on the genre, but here's a really dumb as hell plot. To me, it's a very Dreamcast-esque game. But the opening number is one of my favorite openings in a game that I've played.
It's super cool.
It's cool as hell. It makes you feel cool as hell playing that opening number. It's really good.
I think it's funny that you say it's so Dreamcast era, because it even has there's a Space Channel 5 song in there, and there's some Samba de Amigo in there as well. So little brief cameo songs that you could come across. And also Feel the Magic. It references Feel the Magic of all the fucking Sega games.
Well, that's also a very Dreamcast-ish game, I feel like.
Yeah. I would say. So I beat that. It was fun. What else have I been playing? Golf Story. I've been playing Golf Story on the Switch. And that just came out yesterday, but I put in like a good 3 to 4 hours in it already.
Holy shit.
And it is so fun. This game is going to blow up from word of mouth, I think, easily. Because it is like it's an RPG. It's super like the Game Boy Color Mario Golf and Mario Tennis RPGs, and I think there's the GBA ones are the same, but I never played the GBA ones, where you're just like on the golf course, and you don't have to just play golf. You could like walk around, talk to people that have different missions for you or different little things that you want to do, and you could just tee up anywhere you want in the game. Like, for example, early on in the game, you need enough money to get a coach to like just even consider training you. And to get money, you can talk to different people, and they'll just like have you do like little chip-ins from certain distances, or maybe out of bunkers or roughs, or they'll have you do long drives, like say if you could beat somebody in a long drive competition. Or there's like money. There's pots. There's like pots floating around in the rivers and lakes, and if you like hit your golf ball at the pots, then they'll break open and you'll get money. And I also stole a pie out of the clubhouse and microwaved it and gave it to some guy, and he gave me money for that. So there's like lots of different ways that you could earn money, and then you also get experience points too when you do these different missions, and then you could spend the experience points on different aspects of your swing. And it's just really fun, and it's also just like very lighthearted and does not take itself seriously, and it's very humorous. It's very humorous, Craig.
Do I have do I have to know a lot about golf? Do I have to like golf to enjoy this game?
Do you like video game golf? Because like let's put it this way, Craig. In the tutorial, the tutorial for the game is like you as a child going to this golf course with your dad, and he's like teaching you how to play golf, and he's like, to do a long drive, you got to hit A, and then you got to push A again for your power, and then A again for your precision. So that's like most of you have to know about golf. Really, it's not. I know shit about golf. All I know about golf, I've learned from Mario Golf games, and I can play this game perfectly fine.
Is there stuff to enjoy beyond the golf?
It's a golf story. It revolves around golf. All right, let's put it in the first golf course. Like I said, like the tutorial, you're at the golf course with your dad, whatever. Then when the main game starts, you're older, and you return to the same golf course, and it's like completely worn down. There's like the grass is all patchy. There's dirt everywhere. There's like a bunch of no ne'er-do-wells hanging out with bandanas and no shirts. And in one of the holes, there's a bunch of frisbee golfers. And they're like, just think they're way too cool for school, and they won't even like talk to you until you get yourself a frisbee. And also, they get really mad if you call it a frisbee. They're like, it's a disc. I don't even know what a frisbee is and stuff like that. They just think that they're super hot shit. And then you could eventually buy a disc, and you could best them in disc golf, and then they'll get out of the course. So there's different kinds of golf so far. At least there's been disc golf and regular golf, and
all the varieties of golf.
The frisbee golfers call the regular golf ball golf, though, because they think it's inferior. Anyway,
of course they do.
Of course they do. It's like very humorous. Like you're running around and you're just talking to people and you're doing different missions, but the missions you're doing are all very golf based. Like one of them, to get the coach to train you after you pay him the money, you got to like beat the 3 students he already has. And one of the students is inside of the clubhouse playing on the quote unquote golf simulator, which is just a picture of a a golf course from aerial view taped onto the back wall that he's just swinging at while another kid is telling him how good he is. And he literally just keeps swinging every shot directly, hitting the bunker on the picture. And then the dude's just spouting out off like how good his drives are and how he's making it right onto the green every single time and stuff like that. So, and then to beat him, you have to swing away at this picture of the golf course using Golf Craig. So it's all very golf-based, yes.
I feel like this... I'm probably going to buy this because I do think it's most likely up my alley. But golf sucks, and that's...
golf is terrible.
And
golf
I can't get past that.
I like video game golf, though. Video game golf, I think, is super fun and satisfying to me.
Yeah, I can't think of a single like video game sport. Like, obviously, I don't play sports. I'm doughy as hell and I'm uncoordinated. But like even like video game sports, I can't think of one where I'm like, yeah, this is satisfying. Like, I'll play the Mario sports games, and they're all right. Like arcade style sports they're all right. But I don't know.
Did you play like Mario Golf on N64 or GameCube or anything like that?
Yeah, and I think I was out on Game Boy Color.
Yeah, Game Boy Color. Yeah.
Game Boy Color, and I have the newer iteration on 3DS. So yeah, no, I've played it, and like I said, I mean it's all right, but I mean I just at the end of the day, I have hundreds of games, and if it's like hundreds of games, golf, hundreds of games, golf is going to lose.
There's golf in there, but it's not very traditional. Like even in this game, like in the first course that I had to play through, it's only a nine course golf. It took me 10 minutes to play 9 holes. There's like I said, the course is super worn down, and there's these giant gophers all over the course too. So you don't want to hit the balls too close to the gophers because the gophers will come and steal your ball and stick it someplace that you don't want. So it's not just like straight up golf. It's golf with a slight twist, and obviously very story based and everything. But it's fun. I just got to the second golf course too. I'm supposed to be spying on these people for some reason. They're cavemen, and there's dinosaur bones everywhere, and they think that your golf course stole their turtle idol or something like that. And I think I'm about to do a foot race in order for them to let me play on their like little kids course. It's very interesting. It's an interesting and fun game, Craig.
All right, I'll take your word for it.
And you're going to be hearing about everybody loving the game.
I already have. It's it does look interesting. I totally believe you, but man, I just can't get past that golf component. I can't.
It's golf. It's golf. It's fun though. There's mini golf too. I found a mini golf course and I played that, and that was good. One of the things I want to mention that this game does very, very well, like probably better than I've seen any other game do, is that there's no spoken dialogue. It's all text boxes, but these are like the most emotive text boxes that I have ever seen. Like aside from just like the simple things that other games have done, like smaller text size, bigger text size, like faded things, shaking text boxes. It does like for like confused or like whatever kind of emotions, like the whole text box tilts off to the side slowly, like as it's being typed in. People will say stuff like really quickly, and then like it'll backspace away, and then they'll like say something else, like they meant to say something else, and just different stuff like that. It's very the text boxes really bring a lot of life to the characters and story.
That does sound pretty cool.
Yeah, it's something that I've never seen to this degree before, and I think it's really awesome.
Cool.
I think that's it for me.
All right. Well, then I guess we'll talk about some news.
Let's do news.
All right. So first story we have here is about golf. Fucking golf, Christ. Shit. Golf, NES Golf is hidden on the Nintendo Switch on the system. It's hidden in an emulator that you can only access if your Switch has never been connected to the internet and updated. So you need 1.0, version 1.0 firmware. And if the date is set to Satoru Iwata's death. And I'm not sure about the particulars of it, but I know that one of the actions to unlock this golf game, in addition to those other criteria, you have to do the direct motion with the Joy-Cons, sort of pushing your hands forward as Iwata
directly to you.
Directly to you. And that is amazing. That is
right?
That is a phenomenal little memorial to Iwata hidden on the Switch where no one will ever play it. I think I read that Golf was the first game that he programmed by himself. Is that?
Yeah, at least for Nintendo. Yeah, I don't know.
At least for Nintendo.
Yeah, I don't know if he was working on like one of those Japanese computers, whatever, beforehand, but for Nintendo, yeah.
Yeah, so that is a really awesome little memorial. Even if no one ever sees it, just the fact that it exists, I think is fantastic. I think that's phenomenal.
It's assumed. It's assumed that everybody will be able to do it on actually July 11th. The problem is if your system's ever been connected to the internet, it gets its time from a server, so it knows what time it is, even if you set your system time to a different time or date. The Switch will know what time it actually is, what time and date it actually is. So that's why it works on 1.0 systems, because those have never been connected to the internet. So when you switch the time on when you switch the time on the Switch itself, it actually thinks it's July 11th, I think is the date. So it's assumed on the actual July 11th, everybody will be able to do this.
So with Switches, you can change the date and time in the settings, but it knows you're bullshitting it.
Yes.
What the fuck? What the fuck is the point of that?
Right, I don't know. Especially with the literally every other Nintendo system, it has no idea what time it actually is and just trusts your word for it and will not.
Right.
Do internet
yeah.
Check. What else?
So we have the Super Nintendo Classic has the same board as the NES Classic.
Right.
Which is most likely a cost-cutting measure, and also possibly why they're bringing back the NES Classic, because one part of the cost, the board, is already cleared away. Like they're producing more of the boards. Mm-hmm. I guess it's a shell. I mean, obviously that's a cost and time that they have to incur, but at least the board part, they got a bunch of those lying around. Apparently, they're probably just cranking those things out.
They're probably. I'm wonder if they have like a separate manufacturing place just for the NES shells. The thing they have to make two different shells for this one as well. They did for the Famicom as well, didn't they? Or the NES Mini and Famicom.
They did. Plus the controllers are different,
right.
So it's probably not as straightforward. I mean, that probably contributes to like shortages and stuff like that. It's not as straightforward as people think, probably. So.
But I mean, apparently the hardware that's in these things, that's the same between the NES Classic and NES Mini, is like it's pretty powerful. It's I've read that it's more powerful than like a Wii or a 3DS tech. So
wow, what the hell?
Yeah, so it's like good enough tech to emulate these games very, very well.
But I think that's one of Nintendo's sticking points, where when you. I'm no expert on this subject. This is all sort of what I've read secondhand, but I've read that when you emulate a piece of hardware, the hardware that you're using to emulate that hardware, more often than not, has to be more powerful than what it's emulating.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, when people go like, well, why can't this system run this game? It's obviously more powerful. Well, with Nintendo, they're very particular about how their games are emulated. They want them to be as close to the originals as possible, and if the hardware is not going to be able to do that, they don't want that to happen.
If you used like back in like the early 2000s, if you used like SNES or NES emulators, and Genesis, especially Genesis emulators, were so shitty for so long. Bad emulators do not replicate the games well at all.
I remember even in like the late 90s, like using a Game Boy emulator, and even a Game Boy emulator like ran like shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at least like up to 5 years ago, there were still no emulators that could run Mother 3 properly, because the timing that you would need for the battle system, you have to do like a little timing to the music that would not match up at all on any of the emulators. And the only way to like play it well was with the actual Game Boy Advance. So,
speaking of Game Boy Advance, this is all of this is also the reason why you can't play Game Boy Advance games on the 3DS. There's no Game Boy Advance Virtual Console.
Even though they did give us games.
They did, but they did those there's some hardware finagling with those that they had to do to get them running. I don't think those are actually emulated. I think they're actually using one of the processing cores that was a holdover from the DS, and I think that core was used to do like Game Boy Advance stuff. And that's funny. Yeah, and that's also why you can't go to the home menu while you're running the Game Boy Advance stuff.
So it's because it thinks it's a DS.
Right,
because it's a DS running a GBA game.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right. It's the DS hardware. That's why you can't use a home menu when you're doing the DS, because that's another process. That's a separate processor doing that. It's actually a DS processor. When you're running 3DS stuff, it uses the DS processor to run the stuff in the background, the home menu, the friends list, all that. So when you're playing a DS game, or in this case a Game Boy Advance game, you're using that DS hardware, so it can't go home. You're using the processor that would normally do that. I think stuff like that's fun. I don't know. I don't know how we went from Super Nintendo Classic.
I think it's cool. Yeah, but Nintendo's very picky with their emulation software, which is also why they wouldn't release any. Like, people had, I think, 90% sure people had like SNES games running on like stock 3DSs with homebrew, but they weren't like up to Nintendo standard, I guess, which is why they didn't release them until
they didn't run. I saw videos of those. Those were not like, there were some games in some instances in some videos I saw that like looked okay, but
right.
There's other stuff. There was some like super crazy slowdown.
I never looked into it too much, but yeah. Now, some people aren't picky with that stuff though. Some people are like, oh, the game's running. It's the fucking game. It's up and going.
Yeah, and that's fine. But if you're the maker of the game and you want to put your best foot forward, I mean, I don't blame Nintendo for
that. No, absolutely. So it's interesting that their hardware is so powerful too. So a lot of people are like assuming they're going to do an N64 Classic next. So if they are, they probably will not have to change the hardware again.
Here's hoping, because that's one. I mean, it seemed like everyone I know on Twitter got a Super Nintendo one without much issue. Mm-hmm. And, at some point if I walk into a store and I see one, because they just happen to be in the store, I'll probably buy it. But the N64 one, that's the one that I will actually, like, make sure that I get. Like, I played the Super Nintendo as a kid and I enjoyed it, but the N64 had, a huge impact on me. So I will definitely make sure I get one of those.
It'll probably come eventually.
I have no doubt. Let's see here. We got a couple more news stories. We got Assassin's Creed Origins is adding a no combat exploration educational mode next year. And I think I've said before on the podcast that, call me crazy, but Assassin's Creed Origins actually looks halfway decent. And reading something like this, that this is coming out for it, just kind of gives it another feather in its cap, I guess. It's just another reason for me to go like, oh, maybe this will be a and it'll probably come out and it'll be glitchy as fuck and it'll be shitty and it'll be another Assassin's Creed game. Who knows? But I think it looks really interesting. Something like this just sounds really cool. It just sounds like taking a year off from this franchise actually might have done it some good.
So how does this work? Like, are there like, obviously it's going to be points of interest. Are there like markers you walk into that start talking about whatever object you're looking at?
Kind of. I saw a screenshot and it kind of basically pulled up what looked like almost like an encyclopedia entry. It had some like stock photos and some information about what was happening.
That's cool. So it's not just about the objects, but also about like what was going on at that time.
Yes. Yeah.
That is educational, Craig.
It is education, but also, like, to me, like, I don't know, it just sounds really cool. Like, I wouldn't mind, like, fucking off in the mode like that. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, I wonder if you'll still be able to, like, get collectibles and stuff like that while you're in this mode.
I don't know. I don't think I would imagine nothing that contributes to the standard single player would be in this mode. That wouldn't be... Like, what would be the point? I mean, that's... I feel like... You'd only be cheating yourself, but it'd be kind of like cheating, right?
I guess. I just remember in the first game it was really annoying when you're just going around, all of a sudden it's like there's a Templar chasing you, and I was just trying to get some fucking random...
Yeah, that's why Assassin's Creed, that was one of the biggest turnoffs for me, is that you can't exist in that world without someone wanting to kill you. So that was a huge turn. You can't explore... I mean, it's a game that invites you to explore and to find things, but every time you turn the corner... a bunch of people chase you off whatever you were doing, and I don't find that fun.
Yes.
So yeah, that's been a huge turnoff for me. But Origins, if I can walk through a city and everyone's not going to be up my ass for walking through the city, I want that. That's what I want to play. And then if I want to sneak around and shoot someone with a bow and arrow, and then they want to fuck me up, that's fine. But until then, leave me alone. I'm just hanging out, man. I'm buying some dates in this market. That's fine. I can do that.
Yeah, I might get this game. It does look really good. And this would be the first Assassin's Creed I've played since 3. I played a little bit of 3.
I mean, I'm going to hold off for a couple weeks because in like 2 weeks after it comes out, it'll be $20.
It's a Ubisoft game. It's an Assassin's Creed game. Even it'll drop down real fast.
But I will say that I will say this. I will buy it new if it comes out and people seem to like it more than the standard Assassin's Creed fans. It gets good reviews. The reviews read like something that I would play. I will buy the game new, but on sale. So Ubisoft gets their money because I kind of want to encourage the idea of, taking your time with a franchise. Take a year off, put it in educational mode, do cool stuff, and I'll buy your game.
Yeah, no, it looks good, and definitely looks like the time off has been worthwhile.
Speaking of buying games or not buying games, it seems like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite did not sell super great.
I didn't even know the game was out for like a while. I started reading about how it was bombing. I was like, oh shit, the game came out?
That's how much it bombed, I guess. People don't even know it's out.
Well, I didn't see any marketing for this game at all. Like on YouTube, anywhere on the internet.
Yeah, no, I mean, I knew it was out because people were posting pictures of the limited edition Infinity Stones, and they look like Easter eggs, and I'm like, oh, I guess the game's out, and people are already disappointed before they even put it in their system.
Yeah, I don't. Just the budget just didn't seem to be there for this game, as far as development or marketing went.
But that seems to be the case for a lot of Capcom games. I picked this news story. I'll be clear to our listeners. I picked this news story because there's a little bit of Schadenfreude here. I'm only human. Capcom, what the fuck are you doing? I don't understand it. Apparently, Street Fighter 2 on the Switch had a better debut than Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite on 2 systems. That's... there's probably a lot to unpack in there. Street Fighter 2 was in a launch window for a brand new system, but it was also a $40 game. It was a 25-year-old port, and it was $40. I mean, that's also a knock against, but it still sold well. It sold almost 500,000 copies.
Yeah, absolutely. Capcom was very happy with the sales on that one.
I just, to me, it's another example of guys, what the fuck are you doing? Capcom's games, as near as I can tell, do well on Nintendo's handhelds. Phoenix Wright, Monster Hunter, whatever. They seem to have success on Nintendo's handhelds, but it's almost like they want to pretend like they don't have that success. It's almost like they want to, no, we make big boy games for big boy consoles, and they just don't want to own up to the fact that they're games that the audience is there and they do well. So they'll do Bionic Commando on the 360 or whatever the fuck. Their fighting games seem to be losing steam. What's this latest Street Fighter? Is this Street Fighter 5 that they got going?
Yeah.
I occasionally hear rumblings of that, but I haven't heard too much kind words about that game. I almost feel like you wouldn't even know that a new numbered Street Fighter is even out.
Yeah, it was very light on content at launch, and people were not happy about that because there's no arcade mode, which was a first for a Street Fighter game. Yeah,
that's right. I did hear that. It was basically designed to be almost like an esports game, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Which, I mean, is great for the esports crowd, but not for, sales in general. Because fucking when people buy their game, they don't want... And it had just this bare bones story mode when it launched. I think a few months later, it came out with a more involved story mode. I have the game. I played through these story modes, and they're dumb. I just want and there was no way just to play a steady stream of CPU fighters and then get an ending in every other Street Fighter game, and there still isn't. Capcom's if you want that, play survival mode, but survival mode is not the same, and it kind of is not that fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I will say though that I think that even though it feels like a bit of a slight to Nintendo owners to not commit to localizing Monster Hunter Double Cross and then putting out Monster Hunter World on PS4 and Xbox One, you know, when Nintendo's the one who really built up that series here in the West. I mean, I know it was on PSP before, but you know, I think what made it much more popular was being on Nintendo systems. It does feel like a bit of a slight, but I will say that Monster Hunter World probably stands to do well, if I had to guess. Like, I feel like, you know, after all the Souls games, that kind of like hardcore combat, you know, has an audience. And I think it's just a matter of like streamlining some of the more irritating systems, not dumbing it down or making it easier, but just streamlining some of the stuff, which it sounds like they're doing, and keeping the challenge. You know, that game could find an audience.
I think Monster Hunter World's going to do well. I have a nephew that I know goddamn well has never played a single Monster Hunter game in his life. Super looking forward to it. So, I mean, there's already people who I know haven't looked at Monster Hunter games before taking interest. I think it'll do well. It looks really good, and I think it showed off really well at its E3 debut and everything.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, it's easy to feel like that's a bit of a slight, but I think that game will do well. It's all the other shit. Like, I've seen Disney Afternoon Collection on sale multiple times. It only came out a few months ago. I feel like, you know, if you have to put your game on sale several times over the course of just a few months, it's probably not selling well. But I would bet every dollar that I have that if that came out day and date on the Switch, that would have been the lead platform. Like, it would have killed it on the Switch.
Oh, easily. Because that's... I mean, it's handheld and it's a family-friendly audience. It's I honestly have no idea the reasoning behind not putting that game out on Switch.
Now,
it just makes no sense.
And now you got Okami coming out, and I'm glad that Okami's on. I'm not saying that like put everything on Switch and ignore the other systems, right? It's not about that. But like putting Okami on PS4 and Xbox One and not the Switch seems fucking preposterous to me. I don't get it.
No. Yeah, we have numbers for Infinite in Japan and the UK right now. In Japan, let's see, opening week, it sold 8,273 copies, which is like...
That's bad.
That's really bad. Like, even for Japan, like, I don't think any of their new entries had sold less than... oh, here we go. Marvel vs. Capcom 3 had debuted at 14,000, so it did like even well worse than that.
And even that's not that great.
Oh wait, that's 14,000 on Marvel. That's 14,000 on the Xbox 360. Sorry, on the on the PS3 it did 66,000. So there you go.
That makes
there
way more sense. 8,000.
Yeah, you're down from like 75,000 to 8,000 between releases, which is a crazy drop off.
I don't want to beat the dead Capcom horse here. I don't want to be like those fuck Konami people. Like I always thought that movement was stupid. Nobody was buying Konami's games other than Metal Gear Solid. They went where the money was. They're making a lot more money doing patchy slots. So, you know, that's fine. They can do that. With Capcom, I don't understand it. Like, I think Nintendo fans have proven time and time again, we want your games. I want your games. I want to play Disney Afternoon on my Switch. I want to play Okami on my Switch. I want that. And that's why I'm frustrated. That's why I don't understand it.
Yeah. Well, I really don't know what they're doing. They're giving us a Revelations port, I guess.
That's fine. I mean, that's a good game, but I just, okay, that's fine. I'll pay. You got to pay $40 because you got that turd Revelations 2 along with it.
Yeah. Which is a download code, I think. Or which one's the download code? Because one of them is on the cart and then the other one's a download.
I wonder if... I mean, 2 never came out physically, right?
No, it did. I have it on PS4.
Oh, it did? Okay. Because I was wondering if, like, maybe there would be something different in the coding or something where it would be harder to make that physical if it never was physical in the first place, so they would just give it download code.
Trust me, they don't give a fuck. The fucking PS4 version, when you... Like, everything's there and on lock, but still, like, looks like you need to download stories and chapters and shit like that. I don't think they changed the UI one bit between the physical release and the digital release.
No, I guess they don't. No
release.
Fucks. No fucks.
Yeah.
All right. That's frustrating. I just wish they'd bring some of these games to the Switch. It's such a good home. And it's not because I'm a Nintendo fan. Like if the Nintendo console was another anchor to the TV, just like the PS4, there'd be no difference, and I wouldn't care. It's just that it's portable, and that makes the work transformative, in my opinion. It completely changes how you can play it. That has value. I want to play my games that way. It's just very frustrating.
I think when stuff like NBA 2K and FIFA. And FIFA 18 and stuff like those numbers come out, I don't think they're going to be like blown away. I don't think they're going to outsell the Xbox One or PS4 versions, but I think they're going to be like very respectable, and I think there's going to be money there, and I think more developers are going to take notice of that. There's
like 3 different like packages for the NBA game. I think I saw it on the eShop, but like on the charts, it was high up there. I think.
Yeah, so I think they're going to see that people want portable versions of these console games, and I think hopefully more developers will come.
Yeah, but I also think that it helps to be day and date, right? Because I mean, I'll be honest.
Yes.
I'll buy if Capcom came out with the Disney Afternoon Collection, like next month, right? I would buy it. Number 1, because I didn't buy it on PS4 already. Number 2, because I have no sense of shame, so I would totally do that. But I feel like you missed the boat, because
this is going to have to be for moving forward. This is going to have to be for future releases.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like indies have already taken notice of this. The fucking indie train on the Switch is fantastic. And the developers are happy with the sales that they're getting. And it's outselling a lot of the other platforms in a lot of cases.
Yeah, a number of indie games you're right, are doing very well on Switch.
So I think the indie devs have got in on this, and I think there's going to be even more of that going forward with the larger developers. Their games obviously take years and years to make, so it might be too late for a lot of games coming out soon. But I have no idea how that's going to affect everything.
Yeah, I think it's harder for some of these bigger developers to pivot like that. Not just in terms of like actually developing, but just the bureaucracy in a company like that. It might be a lot harder. But I am worried about the long-term success of indies on the eShop, because right now the eShop isn't super crowded, and you log on, you just see a nice clean page of all the recent releases. But like this week, it was like 15 games came out all at once. Like the whole front page is just this week. So I can see I can see games just being pushed off that front page very easily, and after that, there is no curation. Here's the top sellers, here's the new releases.
Yeah,
that's it.
Nintendo needs to curate this eShop. There needs to be like different genres. There needs to be like top sellers in different genres. There needs to be like you might be interested in this. It should go by your purchase history too. It should recommend different games that you might enjoy, tailored to you based on what you have on your Switch. It needs stuff like that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I know people disagree with this, but I think the 3DS has one of the best storefronts that you log on and then you're dropped right there into a nice attractive like window shopping. You got sales. It'll have like virtual console, has games featuring Mario or RPGs or games under $5 or new release. And then if you want to see the new release, like, I don't give a shit about none of that. New releases, just tap over to the left, new releases. If you want, it has a very robust search. You can search by genre, by publisher, by, it's obviously title of the game. 3DS had a very good eShop.
Yeah, I like it.
I say had as if it's dead and buried.
It's one of my favorite. Well, speaking of which, I just read today that they're going to be shutting down the Wii eShop soonish. No, they're going to shut it down January 2019, but you won't be able to add any more money to it. I think sometime early next year.
Yo, is the Wii eShop going to last longer than Miiverse? Is that?
Yeah, it is.
Fantastic. Nice. I gotta wonder, like, it must be a support thing, because it can't be a cost thing. It can't be that expensive to maintain, like, in terms of just like servers or bandwidth to maintain that storefront. Not for a big company like Nintendo. It must be a matter of like support, I guess, whatever, vague support means, in terms of like updating and maintaining it. But that's a bummer. But I guess it's inevitable. I mean, like, who's still sitting on their Wii, downloading shit? No one.
Yeah, no one. Might even just be like the whole like being able to talk to credit card servers that they don't want to maintain anymore or something,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, probably just simple little things like that. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, that's gonna be going away. eventually. So buy all those Wii eShop games that you might not have gotten.
I can't play the Wii anymore. I loved the Wii when it came out. I was a staunch defender of the Wii, but man, there are some ugly ass games on there, and I think that those motion controls have not aged. I think motion controls are actually a lot like early 3D games, where like they just have not aged well.
Yeah, no, I could agree with that. Fuck, there were a lot of motion control games I didn't like even when they first came out. I couldn't get half the shit in Zack and Wiki to work right.
Yeah, that's true. And just, I feel like the setup is kind of a pain in the ass. Like having to have a sensor bar set up and plugged in or with batteries if it's wireless, and then sitting close enough, and then having to point at your teeth. That whole nonsense.
It's all archaic now.
It does. It's crazy. It wasn't that long ago when that system was hot shit, but yeah, it does feel archaic now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's going to be officially dead completely soon. Nothing left of it.
All right. Well, that's all I got for news. Do you have anything you'd like to add to this episode?
No, not at all.
All right. Me neither. I think it's for me. It's time for bed.
Aw, it's Mimi time for Craig.
It's what time?
Oh, Mimi time.
Mimi time?
That's it's a Mexican thing.
You Polacks wouldn't understand. Nice. All right.
It's a slang thing for bedtime.
Oh, okay. Yes, it is. It is Mimi time for Craig. I got up at 5 today. It is 10:30 here, so yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to hit the hay. But I want to thank everyone for listening. Shit, I forgot my outro. What the fuck am I saying here? I want to thank everyone for listening. You can find us on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Ludowave Radio. You can download, you can stream, you can subscribe there. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts. Please rate and review us on those platforms. It is super helpful. Our theme song, composed exclusively for us by Morning, Moon, and Mercury. You can find more of his stuff at bandcamp.morningmoonandmercury.com. You can find me, Craig, on Twitter. I'm at TV and Lust. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm at TV and Lust there as well. Seth, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at Seth Castello.
That's it.
That's the only place I am. Just Twitter.
It's a good place to be. All right. We're out.
Bye.